Are you stuck in the same old routine at work? Do you find yourself hitting a creative wall, unable to see beyond your current perspective? It's time to break free and unlock the power of fresh perspectives. David Guthrow, discovering fresh perspectives. I keep getting that wrong. I've only been doing this for I don't know how long. It's discover fresh perspectives. And today we're going to discover some fresh perspectives with Conor Cuneen. Welcome, Conor.
Hey, David. Good to be on the program.
Now, I was just remarking just beforehand that I've actually had conversations with two gentlemen from Ireland, neither one of whom lives in Ireland. So I'm not sure quite what that's all about. But Conor, just before we get started, how on earth did you get from Ireland to wherever the heck you are right now?
Right. I suppose it's a long journey, David. I've actually been working on my Chicago accent for 25 years now, which is pretty impressive, I think. And I'm failing dreadfully in that. My school teachers never thought I was the sharpest tool in the shed, I suppose. But quite seriously, I came over originally. I was working with a company who are now Unilever. It was a company that was acquired by Unilever. And I was VP of marketing for the food service business. So the core brands I worked on, Hellmann's mayonnaise would be the most famous one, or Best Foods mayonnaise, Knorr soups and sauces, Thomas's English Smokings, and we had Lipton tea, Ben & Jerry's were also part of the portfolio.
So, Conor, just beforehand, we were talking about, a wide variety of things that you do working in corporations. And as you said, one of those brought you over here. But you made an interesting comment that, sometimes it feels better to get, a thank you or a comment from someone that you've helped out, even more so than getting a big check from a corporation. So maybe we could just explore a little bit about, where you volunteer, why you volunteer, and what that actually does for you and how that helps others out.
Yeah, more than happy to go down that road, David. Primarily as a revenue generator, the brand is Irishman Speaks, and I do keynote speaking, MC work, etc. And the mission is to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. And that's where the dollars come in. But I do quite a bit of volunteer work helping people who are in job search. And one of the criteria I work to is that anyone that I am dealing with is not unemployed. They are in job search. And the idea is that job search actually is a mind game, David. And the person who claims that they are unemployed and saying you're not unemployed, you're doing the toughest job you've ever done in your life. And right now, you may not be getting any monetary reward, but the benefits ultimately are going to be there. So you're in job search. The other reason why I say it is because the person who says they're in job search, they're suggesting that they're active, they're taking action. And the person who says they're unemployed, even when they're saying it, I think they feel rotten about themselves, and it suggests that they're a victim. And we don't want them to be victims. I want them to believe that you're in job search, job transition, you can do these things and you can make it happen. And I basically say the only profane word that is not allowed in my vocabulary, Dave, I'm an Irishman, so we dropped a lot of F-bombs left, right and center. We won't do it in this program, but the only profane word I really detest is that U word, which is unemployed. It should be banned from all job coaches, career coaches, vocabulary as well, in my opinion.
That's a lovely, lovely mindset. So it's proactive. You're not putting yourself in the position of a victim, someone that doesn't have something, but rather someone that's doing something. I absolutely love that. So tell me a little bit more about that work. How do you go about that?
Right. Basically, the way I got involved in it myself, David, is because when I came over here, originally, the plan was we would spend just 3 years, the original company I came over with. Then we were taken over by Unilever, and they asked me to stay another period of time. But then they wanted me to go back to Europe. But my daughter had started in Wake Forest in North Carolina, and I basically didn't want to mess her life up again. I'd already done it once. So I told Unilever, as I said, to get stuffed when they wanted me to go back to Europe. They told me get stuffed. And then we had a mutual stuffing. So, but it was amicable enough, though, in fairness. And I fully understand a single person cannot try and force the HR or the personnel policy for an organization. So I left them. And when I left them, I went into an outplacement group for a little while, just getting advice as to what I should be doing, etc. I decided I didn't really want to go back into corporate. And I set up a consulting business on the food service side initially, offering advice and content to European markets about the North America market. I was asked to speak at a couple of different events, and that's where the Irishman Speaks eventually morphed into to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. But the way I got involved with the job search community and helping them was when I was with the outplacement company, I saw that job search was just stealing the soul of quite a few executives. There was an executive group I was involved with. And I said on one occasion, look, I'll do a brown bag lunch on staying sane during the job search. And I didn't really know what I was going to say, but I gave it a little bit of thought, came up with about 4 or 5 points on it, which I still use today. And I did that, and it went so well that the outplacement company asked me to do it again 2 weeks later, and then a couple of weeks after that again. And I realized that some of what I was saying actually made sense to people, which surprised me. But hey, I mean, life is full of surprises. And from that, I got involved with one of the local community groups here in the Chicagoland area. And as a result of that, I've been working ever since with various community groups, helping them and their people who are in job search to stay sane, motivated, and productive in job search. And actually, on this Friday, I'm working with Illinois. I'm doing a presentation to Illinois WorkNet DuPage, unpaid, where I think there's about 100 people registered, which is a lot in this day and age, for a program on personal branding for the job seeker. And I work with them, or I do presentations with them about 3 times a year. And basically, the idea is to give them some good ways to feel good about themselves. And as I said, to be able to walk into the interview 12 foot tall and bulletproof.
So, Conor, that's what you could do, but I'm curious, why do you do that? What's the motivation for doing that?
Motivation, I get a lot from it myself, David. I mean, there is no better feeling. I mean this sincerely. When someone I might have been helping over a few months sends me a note on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, Conor, I have landed." And that person for the last 5, 7 months, sometimes longer, has been struggling with the job search. And once that note comes through to me, it gives me a real buzz. When I get a check from a large organization, be it IBM or some healthcare group, I mean, that doesn't really necessarily give you a lift. It puts money in the bank and puts money, food on the table, but you don't get the pop, the dopamine, etc. You might get the dopamine hit when you actually get the event initially, when you're told, "Hey, you've got the event." That's when it happens. But the real dopamine hits that I get happen when someone tells me they've landed and they just appreciate the work and the help that I've given them over the last few weeks or months, often a lot of the time.
Now, I don't know who listens to this podcast. I just wish there were quite a few more, quite frankly, Conor. But when you say a dopamine hit, some people may not know what that means. So could you just say a little bit about that, please?
Right, dopamine. We've got the neurochemicals in our brain, David, and one of them is dopamine, which is known as the feel-good chemical. And when something good happens, the brain releases a little burst of dopamine, which makes us to feel better about ourselves. And that's actually one of the things I play on as well when I'm speaking to job seekers, David. How can you feel good about yourself when you're walking into that interview or doing that phone call and with the recruiter, when for the last 4 days you've just been getting rejections, 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 rejections. And it is hard, but it can be done. And what I suggest to people is to identify a few things that make you feel good, that give you a pop. Okay. So one of the simple little ones would be if I wanted to feel good just before making a sales call or something, I look at a photograph of my 2 darling granddaughters. Okay. I'm smiling at those. As I'm dialing, I'm smiling at those. But you can play with the brain and fool the brain. Another example I give, and this one really gets people smiling. I tell job seekers, they kind of look at it first and then they laugh when they hear it. I say, the job seekers, all right, if you're doing an interview, telephone interview in the next 5 minutes, get onto the Googler, as I call it, okay? So you Google, all right, I also say Google on the Bing, all right? I'm a confused Irishman, all right? So you Google on the Bing for pandas. What? Pandas, Pandas. All right. Okay. Now, I know this is going out in audio, but we're doing it here on Zoom, so I can see you laughing just after I mentioned pandas. So, can I ask you, why did you laugh when I mentioned pandas?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it was unexpected because, quite frankly, I thought you were going to say polar bears, but it's no, but it's just the image of a panda, like they're big and goofy, and they seem to have no care in the world. And I could just see them, eating their leaves and things like that. And it's just they're just kind of warm and cuddly.
Yeah, and when you look at those panda videos, it almost always puts a smile on people's face because they are so goofy. All the simple things. When I've mentioned that to a room of job seekers, I've got a few other comments like people just like to watch little puppies. Okay, makes them smile. Another one that came up with I thought was really interesting, and it is fun to check it on video, is goat yoga. I swear. This is yoga where people are doing regular yoga, but the goats are jumping up on top of them. It's a thing. And I heard it first when I was doing one of these programs, and I mentioned Google pandas, and someone else says Google goat yoga. But the idea is, you're laughing and smiling now, but that's basically what we're looking for. What can I do as a job seeker that'll give me a lift, a pop just before the interview? And if I can walk into that interview with a smile on my face, I'm feeling better about myself. But if I'm walking with a smile on my face, I'm probably not as nervous, but also that smile will transmit to the recruiter or the interviewer as well. And I think bring a similar reaction from them. So a critical factor for a job seeker is to find ways to be able to walk into that interview 12 foot tall and bulletproof.
Well, I'm just thinking I haven't had to hire someone since I was, worked for Apple in the 1980s. But I remember if someone came in and they were looking down, I immediately started mentally taking points off.
Yeah.
Because to me, it said that they weren't confident. But someone that looks up and literally is looking up, maybe even above my head to check the pictures behind, I don't know. But there is a sense that they were more confident. I was much more likely to engage in a rich conversation with them.
Right. Absolutely. And this is one of the things that people don't pay enough attention to. Body language says as much as, there's studies have been done by Californian professor, I think of his name, on the impact of body language. It can be more persuasive than the actual words that you use. And there's no doubt about that at times. So you've got to, if you walk into the interview, just kind of looking downcast and not walking in positively, you give a limp handshake, etc. They're not killers. But if you're the person who comes in after you is walking in positive, smiley, and gives a firm handshake, they are a few points ahead of you already before any questions are asked.
Just thinking of all kinds of examples of that and building relationships and connections. And it certainly applies if you're looking for a job, but also just meeting other people in general. Like I'm firmly convinced that relationships are more important than ever in this crazy world of the internet and things like that. And to be able to have a relationship with someone you feel confident, not overbearing, but comfortable in your own skin and willing to have an engaging conversation with someone. And, some of the boards that I worked with, I remember hearing the recruiters when they're recruiting people either for their senior management team or the board, it was all about the skills and things like that. It was never about the things that you're talking about right now. And I think even at a very senior level, those things have to come into play as well when you're looking for a job.
Most definitely. And I'll give an example. I was working with a client last year, a large food manufacturing business here in the United States, and they were having major problems with employee retention. And the job that these people were doing was pretty yucky. It was on factory floor, production food line, etc., cold and wet and miserable. And what I tried to encourage them to do was I had a few different concepts that have worked really well with them. Employee retention improved dramatically, and I've got testimonials to state that. But what I tried to get them to do was to make sure that they can create the environment around them and make other people feel valued. So one of the things I asked the group was when we be breaking into groups, I asked them, give me a couple of words or phrases you would like your co-workers to say about you when you're not in the room. And words that came out consistently, whether they were supervisors, team leads, or just regular people on the line, words that came out almost 100%, I think, from every single group and almost every single person were words like kind, compassionate, empathetic, caring, etc. I want my co-worker to be kind or compassionate. I want my supervisor to be kind or compassionate. The team leader was saying, I would like people to say that I was listened to them, kind of thing. Okay. Now, here's the thing, David. In what job spec have you ever seen words like kind, compassionate, empathetic? And yet they are the things that will determine whether or not you're going to create a great team and whether you're going to create develop productivity that will make your company differentiate and be more profitable and productive than your competitors.
And they're not talking about, they don't say things like they're smart, they can answer all my questions. It's all those soft skills that are the things that we tend to discount because they're soft, but make all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned Apple there earlier. There was some guy who worked for them a few years back, Steve Jobs. I think you might have known of him.
Might have, yeah, heard the name.
Yeah, all right. But I mean, I actually think, no, the man is a genius, but as a leader and a team builder, I have major issues with the way that man carried on. And it worries me sometimes when I hear young people say, I'd like to be like Steve Jobs. And that's okay if you want the level of creativity and innovation, but for crying out loud, don't use his man management skills, because only an absolute genius like Jobs can get away with that kind of carry on.
You know, I remember I was down in California one time at the time that there was a party for all the people who'd become divorced as a result of working on the Lisa project. The Lisa preceded the Macintosh. Like, what kind of a thing is, what does that say about the culture? We're having a party for all the people that got divorced because they worked so hard. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's quite amazing. And actually, what I do in the programs that I do, and we mentioned before we came on the recording here that I'm doing a program for, or was it during this recording? I can't remember. Illinois WorkNet in a couple of days' time on personal branding for job seekers, and I talk about a concept, whether it's you're a job seeker or whether you're a team leader or a manager. There's certain simple things that you can do that will help you to create a better personal brand and will also help you to create better teamwork. And those 5 things that I talk about are micro goals. And the micro goals actually spell out the acronym CHAPS, CHAPS. And I speak a lot about what you can do on a daily basis to implement those CHAPS acronyms that will help you to be appreciated, create a better teamwork and better environment as well.
So I was just thinking, I was just on another call previously about, the need to have multiple streams of revenue and things like that, and other platforms. I have never seen anyone advertise themselves as, I am someone that helps you be a job keeper. Like, when you think of all the people that are looking for jobs, that job seekers, that's one thing. But there's a huge market for people that like to keep their job. Now, when there's corporate changes and things like that, you can't do anything about it. And I think a lot of the things that you talked about are ways of for supervisors and things like that, a way to keep your job. But that would be a real interesting brand. Perhaps we should do something together on this, Conor, and describe ourselves. We have an organization that focuses on those that want to keep their jobs, job keepers. I love it. I love it.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, the job we know about the problem with employee retention. And one of the issues that is just I suppose, impacting the economy is the level of employee churn, etc. So organizations should also, well, they absolutely do need to pay attention to keeping their employees. And for most employees, as I said, David, most employers and most managers, they cannot significantly improve their employee net worth. They can significantly improve their employee self-worth. And at the end of the day, if you want to improve productivity for your team, building their self-worth is going to be much more beneficial and effective than giving them a 7 or 17 or even a 27% salary or wage increase. Because once you give them that wage increase, after 2 weeks, it's forgotten about. But building their self-worth is a daily thing. And when you do it, you're going to create that better teamwork and that better engagement.
I remember working with a financial organization, working with a fellow to work on his presentation skills, and he was actually an analyst. And I videoed him. This is back in the days of videotape, before he could do this with a cell phone, doing his presentation on making a particular pitch or presentation for a particular stock. And he was so, like, he hated his job, or at least that's what came through in the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And, who is going to, push this stock based on the excitement that you don't show in presenting it? And, I feel very fortunate. I think you are as well. My sense is, Conor, that you really love what you do. And I love what you do. But there's a lot of people that don't love what you do and, don't love what they do. And wouldn't it be great if there's a lot of things that maybe they don't love, but to find the one thing that they love to focus on, right? And just get really, really good at that. Yeah, we all have things that we don't like to do, but what about the things that give us joy and a sense of satisfaction? Personally, I love photocopying. No, I'm just kidding. But
now, would they be color photocopies or black and white photocopies, Dave?
Whatever the boss wants. Thanks for asking, Conor.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, I completely agree with you. And this is one of the real challenges with the corporate world as well. So many people hate their jobs. Gallup does numbers saying the number of disengaged employees. I think they exaggerate that, by the way, for their own marketing purposes. But I mean, there is a lot of disengaged employees. But one of the reasons why they're disengaged is because managers don't value the self-worth of the other people that they're dealing with. And I've seen friends, and I've also worked with organizations where one manager, one leader is ruining the whole environment.
Yeah.
And either the organization needs to address that, and in most cases they don't, unfortunately, or you've got to try and coach the person who's causing the issues and who's damaging the environment. But it is, I can recall over the years a few people who just despised the job they were in because of the environment. They were happy with the kind of work that they were doing, but they couldn't really move either for family reasons or economic reasons, etc. And it goes back in a sense to what we were talking about the job search earlier on. Being motivated is a mind game. Being able to walk into a 10-foot tall and bulletproof, or 12-foot tall and bulletproof, as I say, is important. Being able to go into work feeling good about yourself is so important, and organizations don't spend enough time making that happen, I think.
So so we start off talking about how you like helping other people, doing things for free, helping job seekers, which I think is a wonderful reframing of that, and then talking about what's important to get people into their jobs and be happy in their jobs. Just before we started talking, you spoke about a process. I think there was 3 words, and you want people to leave with a jump in their step or something like that. Could you just repeat those 3 and how you want to leave people after one of your sessions, Conor? Because I found that very interesting.
Okay. Well, my overall mission, David, is to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. And as a marketing tagline and the brand Irishman Speaks, that's pretty powerful because everyone wants to improve their people, their performance, and their productivity. And if I can do it with a smile, it'll help. But the objective then that I have got, and the end result at the end of my presentation, is I want them to leave with a smile on the face, with a spring in the step, and with memorable, actionable takeaways that will help them to keep on keeping on during challenging times in the next few days and weeks, etc. Leave with a spring in the step, a smile in the face.
That's great. I love the imagery of that. That's absolutely fabulous. And I presume the same thing works when you're helping job seekers as well, looking for the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you, I mean, I'll give you one example of just the emotional reinforcement I get from helping job seekers. Now, this goes back maybe 10, 12 years ago when we had the 2009, 10, 11 kind of recession, okay? And I'd go into a room and there would be 125, 130 people in that room, and they were all just uh, demotivated, no energy. You could smell the pallor of kind of sadness there because they knew they weren't going to get a job next week, kind of thing. Or they didn't believe they would. Um, but I remember one occasion I asked the question sometimes as we start in the session, on a rating scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel right now? Okay, just remember that number, all right? And at the end of my session, when spoke to them about staying sane, motivated, and productive, and a lot of good stories, advice, and humor in it as well, I asked the group, all right, you said at the start of the session, we asked rate yourself 1 to 10. I'd like you to rate yourself 1 to 10 and see how you're doing. So, and I then ask, are you all feeling better, more positive? And there's kind of general rounds of applause, etc. But after it, a man came up to me, very heavy guy, at least he was probably 320, 330 pounds kind of thing. He said, Conor, at the start of the session, you said, oh, rate yourself 1 to 10. I gave myself a negative number.
Wow.
And now I am giving, and he started getting emotional. And he said, no, I'm giving myself a 10 out of 10. And I started getting emotional. I do remember there was tears in my eyes with the reaction from him and the way that I felt I'd made a difference to him. So you never, ever get that when you get a check from an organization. So the emotional reinforcement that I get from doing this kind of work, and for anyone who's involved in volunteer activity, is powerful. And one of the things I actually say to job seekers, David, is one of the ways to make you feel better is go out and do some community work so that you've got something definite to do tomorrow. You're going to help people. You're going to hear the words thank you from people, which are powerful words. And then you can go to the interviewer and say, well, I've been in job search. I've actually been working, developing my skills, improving my ability, and helping other people. And that's going to help you at the interview as well.
I'm just thinking that to me anyhow, there's nothing more powerful than knowing you've made a difference in someone else's life.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
I realize I'm wandering all over the place here, Conor. This is why I'm just
right. I was going to say, actually, we're on video here, gang. I've got a back row of Ireland, so we can be wandering all over the place. But I know this is only audio.
Okay, we just took a left turn at that road there. So it occurs to me I'm working in an environment where there's going to be a fair number of mergers, and we're pretty sure that those organizations don't need like 3 CFOs and 3 CEOs and things like that. And a lot of times when there's even hints of a merger and acquisition, people start panicking. And it seems to me that there's a great opportunity for getting people prepared to make a change. So rather than waiting, what do you need to do to be ready for that? Whether you're going to have to change or not, but that sense of I'm in control of what happens to me one way or the other, right? And doing the same sort of thing, because it's almost like not so much job seeking, but job preparation, so that you're ready. I think a lot of people they kind of go, oh, I'm surprised I'm out of a job. And they start from zero instead of starting from, at some point, we don't know who's going to be around. And usually that's the case. There's all kinds of different processes to figure that out. But, make yourself as job ready as possible. So you're appealing to whoever, whether it's in the new organization or another one. And so there's another job opportunity for you there, Conor.
Right, indeed.
Come to Canada. You have to
so
sneak
many
across the border.
Opportunities.
Exactly. Well, this has been fabulous. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime. I mean, Chicago's a great city. And
it is.
It's on the other side of the border, which, has a bit of its drawbacks, but beyond that, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Absolutely. And I do hope we get to meet in person sometime, either south of the border or for you to come up north of the border. It'd be great to see you again.
Right. Well, I've actually done quite a number of events up in Canada, so you'd never know, David. Thanks a lot for the conversation today. Really enjoyed it, and best of luck with your continuing podcasts and program.
Thank you very much. And this has been David Guthrow, Discover Fresh Perspectives. Hope you have a few things to think about as you go on your way. Subscribe now, because on Fresh Perspectives, every episode is an opportunity to explore new horizons and redefine what's achievable.